Steven,
Ha!
do you know how bad I've been waiting for this NFL season?
How bad?
Pretty bad. Like, this offseason has been stupid. Can you agree with me?
I guess it's been eventful.
It's been eventful, but also dumb.
Why?
And because usually there's moves that are made that are huge, and we're like, oh, sweet, that's going to be sweet when the NFL season starts. I can count numerous things that happened this offseason that were prolonged, that made you wait and wait and wait. And then when they finally happened, they just did. But it wasn't like it just went on for way too fucking long.
Yeah.
Like the Aaron Rodgers trade should have been done early on. Instead, it was a couple weeks up until the draft. Then DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook, all that shit went on for the summertime. This is the longest, dumbest offseason that I've seen in the NFL.
Maybe this is how off seasons are supposed to go. No one's telling. No one. There's no deadlines that are set except for the whole stupid long-term extension for players that have been tagged before deadline, which is like one that no one ever cared about until this year. But Derek, I'd make the argument that that's on you.
It is on me because in years past, things weren't as built up as they are today. Like that tag deadline. I think it was just like so many different things, from Josh Jacobs going to get paid. There were so many stupid storylines this offseason, from the running backs not getting paid to we still have unanswered questions with Nick Bosa and Chris Jones. So we'll talk about that today. But what I want to focus mostly on is just actual football being played. Because yes, I get worked up myself with all the Dove Kleiman and stupid other accounts, and I've unfollowed all of them, the exception of Dove Kleiman, because I'll need that shit during trade deadline. But I'm finally am over all this offseason stuff. Let's actually play these games. I'm ready, Steven. I hope you are as well.
I was about 95% sure that you were going to ask me if I have that fire in my gut. Do you get it?
Well, my first question was going to be, did you drive or take the bus over to your apartment today?
Oh, I drove.
Dude,
I don't get it. What?
Are you referencing the same thing? Okay, first of all, just your opinion, man.
Sorry.
Steven Langford, Derek Papa.
Yes. Yeah, I'm referencing the same thing.
Okay. Jonathan Gannon's ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
Earlier on, which it's never explained, and I don't have the time or patience to watch an Arizona Cardinals YouTube show.
But the Jets one you'll watch.
Yeah, because they're interesting, actually.
Okay.
I'm watching that on top of Hard Knocks. I'm sick. Just these games need to fucking start already. We will get to our season previews for everything. We're going to pick Super Bowl winners, MVPs, who's winning divisions, whatnot, playoff teams, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about Nick Bosa and Chris Jones. And perfect. We the one division that we haven't got to yet are the Wests.
Yep.
And it's perfect because we'll talk about that with those guys and how their teams will be impacted. But yeah, Steven, I watched that Jonathan Gannon video. The thing that's not explained is what he meant by, did you drive over here? Did you take the bus? Is that supposed to be like on the car ride over? Did you have that fire in your gut the whole time? And then while he's awkwardly looking at his team, his shell of a team that's still there, they're all looking at him crazy. And then he ends with, I want fucking killers. Which, the term tanking is thrown around a lot. I think the Arizona Cardinals front office is tanking. I don't think the team itself is tanking. Because you can't tell me Jonathan Gannon's going to war with these guys and they want to lose. I think Monty Essenkoff or Ford, whatever his name is, the GM, and Michael Bidwell want this team to lose, but not the players or the coach.
Of course they do. Did you? I mean, anyone who saw the Caleb Williams highlights this weekend understands why they'd want him to lose. And by the way, they were only highlights because they're all on the Pac-12 network, which is why the Pac-12 is dead, because of that stupid Pac-12 network, and part of other things. But that part of that Pac-12 network not being able to watch the best player in the country, that pissed me off this weekend. But I think Gannon, though, early on is falling victim to what oh good Lord, why am I blanking on the Eagles head coach's name?
Nick Sirianni.
I was gonna say Nick Caserio, but I'm like, no, that's the Texans GM. Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell both fell victim to the introductory press conference foreshadowing what this guy's going to be like as a coach. Nick Sirianni's was all over the place. Dan Campbell was biting kneecaps. And now I think Jonathan Gannon's falling victim to the same thing, and we are judging what he's going to. Exactly.
Pew, 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 pew.
Now we're all judging what he's going to do based on that. So I think he's falling victim to it, but also he does not have the talent that Sirianni and Campbell did at the time when they actually had those press conference. I don't want to say gaffes, but just interesting introductions is the way that I'd put it. So I feel bad for him in a sense. And I know you hate him. I know you hate the impractical jokers. You're not a fan, right?
I wouldn't say hate. They're just not my cup of tea.
Right. He looks like
there's no more room for hate in my life, Steven.
He looks like the bald one, Murr, if you've ever seen that show. He looks like Murr, exactly like Murr.
I'm familiar with frankincense, but not Murr.
There's Sal, there's Joe, there's Q, and then there's Murr. I'll open a picture right now as we get to what's happening.
A character from Interstellar.
Murr.
No.
But the guy looks like him. I'm telling you.
Okay. Jonathan Gannon does.
If I can open up a picture. Hang on. Let me get a picture.
All right.
Well, do we also need to play this thing that we're talking about, or do we want to introduce the show real quick? But that's Murr.
Sure, why not?
That's Murr. That's Jonathan Gannon.
I could see it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to play this Jonathan Gannon thing real quick?
All right. Pull up strong early on this pod.
There
we
you
have
go.
The Wests and everything to get to, but this whole thing is bizarre.
Who drove over here? Quick, let me see your hands. Who took the bus? Did you have fire in your gut? Did you? We're here for a reason. Don't get that twisted. Okay, we're here for a reason to win games. So if you didn't have that fire in your gut, you better light the fire pretty fast. Be who you are. Just understand, I'm looking for killers.
Yeah, awkward, to say the least. I will say the number one thing I'm looking forward to with the Arizona Cardinals is their uniforms, because I do like them going to the all whites.
Kind of they're snazzy.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the old Pat Tillmans back in the day, but the David Bostons. But as far as the team, you can see the way they're looking at him. Like, dude, we know why we're all here.
Yeah.
This team is supposed to lose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to. I really don't envy him, because he's got to lead those men, and they kind of look like they're all sitting there, but they all want to roll their eyes because it's clear that this is not supposed to go well this season.
Do we just want to get into it right now, the Just Your Season preview? We're not going to do the Just Your headlines today. We got a lot of football to get to. It'll just distract from whatever we got. Plus, we got that BS High review, because I watched that as soon as I got home today.
Ooh.
And that,
You angry? You got a little fire in your gut?
I got a little fire in my gut.
Okay, good. Because who's our guy? Johnson. What's his first name?
Roy
Johnson. Yeah. We'll dive into that, and we'll dive into more Jonathan Gannon later, because I'll give you my list. I have a list, Steven.
Oh boy.
Of NFL coaches I think that may get fired this season.
All right.
Is he going to be on it? We'll see. So we save the best for last, or the teams that really we focus mostly on this podcast, Raiders and Niners, and we're going through the West before we get to our season preview of everything. But let's just get to the AFC West and NFC West. Before we do, the biggest question marks right now with both of those teams, are two of those teams in the divisions, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers. Nick Bosa and Chris Jones are still holding out, and we're taping this on a Monday on Labor Day. And I think it's kind of too late for Chris Jones to play in his Thursday night game against the Lions at this point. For Nick Bosa, he still got till Sunday. Things could materialize fast through the week. Kyle Shanahan joined Tolbert and Ratto last week and said that there is no drop dead date to when he would say, no, Nick cannot play. I would assume Saturday would be too much, but we'll see what happens. Apparently, with Nick Bosa, I just saw a report from Ian Rappaport that was just on NFL Total Access saying that they're willing to make him the highest paid defensive end, but they're not willing to make him higher than Aaron Donald at $32 million a year. And the same could be said for the Chiefs with Chris Jones. So before we analyze these teams, Steven, do you think either of these guys get deals before we start playing these games this week?
Bosa. Yeah, I think Bosa will. I think Chris Jones is. I think this holdout with Chris Jones is going to last for a while. This one with Bosa, obviously the Albert Breer stuff came out with last weekend, saying that they're like whatever $4 million a year apart.
Can I clarify that? Because
What?
people have been taking that report and kind of mismanaging his words. They're not $4 million apart. What he was saying was that between being paid the highest defensive end and the non-quarterback, the highest paid non-quarterback in this league is $4 million apart. Never did he say the Niners and Bosa are $4 million apart in their negotiations.
What? Okay, but he literally said they have a $4 million per year or $4 million per year gap.
I'm just telling you, he clarified his comments later. He is not saying they're $4 million apart.
Yeah, Albert Breer is really good at that. He tends to say these comments and then clarify them later on. So I think that
Ray Ratto said the same thing to me. He was like, well, he just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Albert Breer consistently does that. It's always, he says one thing because they need that on Sports Illustrated, and then he has to clarify it somewhere else so he can get a little more attention. So shout out to Albert Breer. I'm not trying to bag on him because he's actually very
you're bragging on Breer.
Yeah, we've always
You're
found
a Breer bragger.
I like Breer, but I think they'll get it done. I don't have any sort of doubts if there really was anything creeping up, like within trades or anything like that. I think the agent would have spoken to the major insiders like Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, and then Dov Kleiman would have taken their reports and acting like he's a reporter too. So I think Bosa is going to get it done. I don't think Chris Jones is going to, because this seems like a legit holdout with no end in sight. And also Chris Jones is a defensive tackle, and it's not like, how old is Chris Jones?
29.
It's not like he's like Aaron Donald at the time when they gave him that contract. Aaron Donald, when he was given his big contract starting in whatever it was, 2017, when his holdout first started. I mean, how old was he? He was in his mid-20s or something like that. It's hard to promise that much money for a defensive tackle that's going into his early 30s. And I'll say this about the Niners. I think they're much better equipped to deal without Nick Bosa, at least for a game or two. Even though this one against the Steelers, I think it's bigger than a lot of people are making out to be.
Oh, yeah.
They obviously got depth. Sure, there's, issues on the edge, whatever. I mean, it's not great when you're entering a game with Cleveland Ferrell and Drake Jackson as maybe your number one and your number two. But Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead can shift outside if he needs to. I think they'll be just fine. But the Chiefs, outside of Chris Jones, they don't really have much on that defensive line.
Yeah, and although you see the Raiders and Chiefs made a trade to get a Neil Farrell. I don't know if I like that, but whatever. It's not anybody that important. But still, I don't like the Chiefs and Raiders doing business like that. To answer my own question, Steven, I'm with you. I think that Nick Bosa cannot live without football. So when push comes to shove, I think that something will happen this week. And I do think the Niners should make him the highest paid defensive player in football at this point. I don't know what that will do to their cap or anything going forward, but I do think that he's earned that at this point. I do think that he's the reigning defensive player of the year. So the question would be, Kyle, every time you ask Kyle a question about Nick Bosa, he's like, yeah, I mean, this is, what this is what I was anticipating it to go this long. And then I would love for it after Sunday, if they, play the game without Nick Bosa and Matt Mayoka or someone's a smart ass just being like, so did you plan on Nick Bosa not playing week one? Oh yeah, it's all planned. It's all part of the plan and stuff, Just gonna play the first 5 weeks without Nick Bosa and just what I counted for. I do think something will be done this week. But then again, that may just be optimism, because I think that everyone thinks this is a no-brainer. With Chris Jones, I do believe he should be in the same category, because if you look at it, the two best defensive players of football last year were Nick Bosa and Chris Jones.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the argument that Chris Jones has surpassed Aaron Donald as being the best defensive tackle in football. I think 16 sacks last year. So should he get more money than him? That's a debate you could have. I think that maybe you can have a contract comparable, but then again, when you're paying a guy like Patrick Mahomes, then that becomes tricky. And I know a lot of teams now can allocate money towards the quarterback and to a defensive player. But when you're the 49ers and you got Brock Purdy on a rookie deal, it makes more sense that you can put more money into Nick Bosa. With the Chiefs, it's tough with Chris Jones. You can make the argument that he should make more money than Quinnen Williams. But when you start making him the highest paid defensive tackle or highest paid defensive player, then it gets tricky. I'm kind of reeling it back in on the trade talk with him. I don't think that Andy Reid or Brett Veach or anybody wants to trade him. But if it becomes clear that he's not going to show up till week 8, that's where things could get, maybe we need to see what our record is in life is without Chris Jones, and maybe we could survive without him.
I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, man. It's also, but it's interesting though, because Donald burst out onto the scene as you could tell, this guy's going to be the best in the league. There was no doubt with his size, with his power, or with his lack of size, I should say, his, should I put it, unconventional size for a defensive tackle, very small. He's kind of just a bulldozer in there. He's like a bowling ball. Whereas Chris Jones, dude didn't make his name as one of the best in the league until he was in his late 20s. It took him a while, did it not? Chris Jones was getting up there. It's oh yeah, this guy's, we were looking at him, I think, the same way as we were looking at Quinnen Williams, where it's oh, this guy's got a chance to be pretty darn good, but not a lot of people have heard of him because he's, after all, playing a defensive tackle. But I think age is really hurting him here and the lack of experience. Whereas Nick Bosa, dude's just coming off a rookie contract. It's almost a no-brainer that you got to sign this guy, especially at his position. I mean, edge rushers like that don't come around often, and I think the Chiefs are still trying to find that. And I don't know what else their plans are as far as who they want to pay in the future, because it almost seems like a no-brainer too to give a guy like Chris Jones that sort of extension. But I wonder what's stopping them from doing that. With the 49ers, I think their problem is they got a lot of people they want to pay next year too. They don't know what's going to happen with Javon Kinlaw. I'm always going to focus on those two guys. Brandon Ayuk and Javon Kinlaw are the two that I'm going to be watching next year, because Kinlaw, they didn't pick up his option, right?
Yeah.
So once he's done that contract, and then with Brandon Ayuk, are they going to franchise tag him? Do they want to give him a long-term thing? I think there's a lot that goes into that.
No question, but I think right now the priority is Ayuk. And I think that they've already found their replacement for Kinlaw with Hargrave.
Yeah.
So I hear you, but I don't think Javon Kinlaw is part of their long-term plans.
And there's other guys too. There's other guys that need to pay. Ayuk's going to be the number one. But I think that in order to keep their roster intact, that's why there's hesitancy with Bosa. So,
and a lot of people think of what AJ Cruz is saying right now. Some people want to keep Ayuk and move Debo. I think that's a very strong possibility, but we're not there yet.
What did AJ Cruz say, by the way, earlier? He said, fire in the gut. You need some tubs. That would have cracked me up if Jonathan Gannon would have been like, how many of you got a fire on a gut in your gut? Okay. Take some antacid tablets.
Anybody got that tums? Speaking of which, I've made the order, Steven. I'm going to hold up my end of the deal. When we do wins or wangs this season, and you're going to do yours today because you're not going to be here the rest of the week, so we're going to get you on record for your picks. That's right. That's what happens when you go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
You bastard. I've put in an order to hedonist.com. Soon, I will have Da Bomb, Beyond Insanity, and The Last Dab coming here.
Oh,
and
my
I will
God.
be drinking those whenever I lose. I know. It's a sacrifice that I'm really a martyr, Steven. I die for this podcast. And when I say die, my lower intestines will die.
Damn. So we are going with wings or wangs this year. I thought we were going to try and get a little more creative with the punishments instead of just going with wings and having to buy chicken wings every single week. Because I'm telling you, man.
Well, not necessarily for you. Maybe for me, I'll just have the hot sauces and I'll just take a spoonful of those. Or I'll get some naked wings and douse those with them. I've been getting on hot ones again. I realized that I haven't watched that show in a long time,
Mhm.
and I've been watching it more. I miss it. It's a great show. Sean Evans looks like me because he's bald, and he does great interviews. And I've been watching some new ones. Gail Godot or Godot.
It's good dough.
Okay, don't you know? She's beautiful, but
Yeah.
yet she's just like the rest of us. When she's eating hot wings, she looked disgusting. She was like spitting all over herself and getting all snotty.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and I'm enjoying watching that show again. So I've gotten back into the hot sauce fever.
It's in testament to how Jesse and I were watching it at the same time, and she is like an objectively just beautiful human being. And so that's a real testament to where you can literally slobber and still look good doing it.
Oh, you're talking about Gail Godot?
I'm talking about Gal Gadot, not
Okay.
you.
No,
I'm
I
talking
thought you,
about
I thought you were talking about your future wife.
Well, yeah, but like she hasn't put herself in that sort of position where she's eating hot wings like that. She doesn't do that to herself because she knows that she hates spicy food. But as we're watching this thing with Gal Gadot, like even when she's taking the wing out and there's slobber coming off
Yeah.
the wing,
She did not hold back. She was a mess.
big fan of her. Anyway, the NFC West, do we just like scratch out the Cardinals and the Rams? Like, do we even care about that? I think those two teams, just as much as any in the NFL, I guess maybe the Colts are in that conversation, but these are the types of teams that are going to I think they're going to be in the running there for that number one pick. Even the Rams. I do not. I look at that team. I don't see, especially with Cooper Kupp and that injury. Sure, they're going to score a little bit, but I don't see the Rams doing anything this year. And obviously, the Cardinals are the Cardinals. It seems like those two, Colts and we can get into the whole thing later, but feels like these two teams are just dead in the water already, and the season hasn't even started yet.
Yes, but we're not going to talk about them. And let's get to the NFC West. And by the way, Alon's in the chat. What's up, Alon? He thinks that we should wear a diaper and everyone should laugh at us when we lose. I may need a diaper after I do the chat.
Yeah, he's saying wearing a baby diaper. I'm not. I'll wear an adult. No, I'm not going to say I'll wear an adult diaper.
I think the wings are fine. And by the way, Alon's going to fill in with me next Saturday before Texas and Alabama do battle, and we'll have some kind of wager between our two schools. We will preview week 1 games while Steven goes on a trip to LA for a wedding. But let's talk about the NFC West. So you want
2 straight weddings. Ugh.
Have fun.
Although I'm looking forward to them.
All right, let's start with the Cardinals then, because we started this thing off with Jonathan Gannon.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about this team? And I'll be completely honest. I wrote nothing.
Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing. What I like, Budda Baker. I love him as a safety. He's hard hitting. Probably going to get traded at the deadline. But looking through their roster, there's not a single thing that I like about this team. They haven't chosen a starting quarterback yet. The last I checked earlier today, we were recording this on a Monday.
Yeah.
They still haven't chosen a starting quarterback. Their offensive line, I guess, DJ
Humphries
is one, but their defensive line, looked at it last week.
Johnson.
What? Who?
They drafted Paris Johnson.
Who's that?
Tackle in the draft that we were talking about. Come on, Steven. Ohio State.
Okay, great. They got that guy. But then, other than that, there's nothing there. There's nothing there at cornerback.
Slim pickings.
It's really, this is one of the worst teams on paper I've seen in quite a while. And it's pretty amazing the fall from grace that they've had. Just because, like, this shows you what hiring a head coach and getting a quarterback, how important it is for your franchise. Like the 49ers, okay, you didn't get the quarterback that you wanted, but you got one that was good enough and one that could help keep the culture intact with the team. And then you had Kyle Shanahan. This Cardinals team, ever since they hired Cliff Kingsbury and drafted Kyler Murray first overall, they've just been on a downward spiral, snowballing into nothingness. And now they're one of the worst teams in the league, hoping to tank for Caleb Williams. And you know what? There's a real chance that they'll do that. I think the Cardinals are absolutely the favorite to do that. I think their over-under win total right now is at 4.5. I might be willing to take the under on that.
And a lot of people are looking into the fact that Clayton Thune and Joshua Dobbs are not speaking this week as like some sign that maybe they're not even going to be in the conversation for being the starting quarterback this week. I just think that they don't want them to speak. I think they just don't want that to be a thing where they're trying to do some sneak attack thing where they just announce the starting quarterback the day of the game, and it really won't matter. It also doesn't matter that Kyler Murray was named captain, and people are like trying to put 2 and 2 together to be like, oh, well, that means he's going to play this season. I don't see Kyler Murray playing at all. I think they're going to be that bad where they're just like, why would we rush him back out there, and why would we hurt his trade value? So as far as this team, I don't like anything about it. And what I don't like about this team is everything. With the exception of Budda Baker and a few playmakers here or there that they could trade away. Marquise Brown, I just drafted in a fantasy league yesterday, and I'm hoping he's the only guy that gets receptions on this team. But James Conner is kind of over the hill, in my opinion. How much you want to bet? How about this, Steven? They go with Clayton Thune or whoever the hell, or Joshua Dobbs this weekend. How much you want to bet that they kick the tires because they don't have to pay him after week 1 the entire season? How much you want to bet that Carson Wentz is somehow involved with the Cardinals quarterback room this season?
Boy, I haven't thought of that prospect.
I thought about that all offseason because it's been a long goddamn offseason.
God, the things you think about, man.
I know.
Just bizarre.
I'm crazy.
No. No, I don't know if that could happen. I really don't.
Maybe because they want to lose so bad that maybe they don't sign him. But that just seems like a logical fit to me.
Does illogical?
Just because you're like, well, do we want to win with some games? Josh Dobbs, okay. Clayton Thune could win some games with Carson Wentz.
He'd be a better option.
Yeah, I think so, but
yeah.
I don't think they want to win.
Jonathan
Gannon, I want to say knows him from Philly, or maybe not. Maybe their timelines.
That is the worst good question that you've ever come up with.
It's just been something that I've been thinking about
because nobody has ever thought that. Have they? I don't know. Has that been a thing with your guys' show? Maybe because sometimes that happens where like something will be brought up on the show and then we bring it the next day
because of me.
No, not necessarily. Just like in general, when I was working at the game, like sometimes
I'll
be brought up that I bring here. But has that been a talking point?
No, if you ever listen to Tolbert and Copes, you'll just realize that this show is everything that I really want to talk about, and anything that makes it to Tolbert and Copes is just regurgitated stuff that I've already said on this podcast.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Makes sense. Can we take a look at the
Rams?
No, can we take a look at the Cardinals NFLPA report card before we move on? Just to give you an idea of how bad the organization is.
Yeah, well, we did. Well, that's another thing in the offseason we talked about. All these storylines in the offseason, they got an F because they made their players take home Happy Meals if they didn't finish them in the break rooms.
They don't offer a family meal. They don't offer daycare for the family. Their nutrition is an F-. They get boxed up dinners. Players reported that the team will charge you via payroll deduction for food.
I will say this: they probably offer better food than what Roy Johnson was offering with Bishop Sycamore.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Spaghetti every night.
Oh yeah, spaghetti and pizza, baby. Players describe it as a health and safety risk just to walk through the weight room. The flooring is uneven. The floorboards are peeling up.
Hey, they got good strength coaches.
Hey,
training room.
The staff is outdated. Yeah. Oh, just everything. If you go down the list of these player report cards, if anyone has the time, I did as soon as they popped up. But the Cardinals have by far the worst grade. Looked like my report card from junior year of high school.
But will they win a game? We will get to that a little later when we start actually picking who's going to fall where. Rams. The biggest thing that I like about this team is just that Sean McVay returned, where he was on the fence about coming back to this team, and he was going to go into broadcasting or whatnot for a season, or do the Amazon Prime thing. I'm glad he came back because this just happens sometimes. You go through lulls. You have the highs of winning a Super Bowl, and then you got to stick around for when you got to rebuild it again. So at least because it's a good spot for him. Like, regardless of what's going on with the team right now, where they have to pay for the sins of what they did a couple years ago, I still think it's worth it. Something's going on with Cooper Kupp and his hamstring. You don't want to see that because he was rock solid as a reliable wide receiver in this league for a while, and now it seems like injuries are catching up to him. Aaron Donald, on the back end of his career, he flirted with retirement. We'll see if this is maybe his second to last season, because there was talk about he'll just play out his contract and then say goodbye. He really wanted to walk away. I think that's kind of what has kind of led to their downfall a little bit, with just the mentality of guys being like, we've already accomplished what we want to accomplish. Same thing with Matthew Stafford. His whole career has been based on winning that Super Bowl. And whatever happened last year with the shoulder, to the injuries, to his wife talking a little out of turn with what they say privately, I still have faith in Matthew Stafford if he could stay healthy. I really have faith in those three guys: Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald, if they're all healthy. But what I don't have faith in is cutting the entire roster down where it's just those three guys. The rest of this team are a bunch of rookies. You got Cam Akers, who they wanted to get rid of a year ago. That's awkward. Van Jefferson's kind of to me. He's never really taken that leap. And yeah, from going from the team that everybody wanted to go play for, if you were a free agent or a big name, trade possibility, to now being like, we gotta just get our draft picks back and play and possibly be in the Caleb Williams department ourselves. They're playing for third in the NFC West at this point.
Yeah, and the thing I don't like about the thing I do like about this team, their skill position guys are fine. Outside of Kupp, like Van Jefferson and Tutu Atwell are really speedy receivers. And you know what? If Cam Akers can actually, like, that was bizarre, wasn't it, last year when he just took a leave of absence? There was no explanation for it at all. It was just like, yeah, he's taking some time away from the team. Maybe it was something personal that we just don't need to know about. But that was a bizarre situation. If he can get back to what he was his rookie year, then, maybe they might have something on offense, but I need to see it outside of Kupp. Plus, I don't know what that offensive line is going to look like. All they did was draft a rookie in the second round who's meant to start right away. But when you're going up against, I don't know, these teams in the NFC West with relatively okay defensive lines, at least with the 49ers, then the other teams, whatever. But, what I just don't like about this team, though, and this is something that you mentioned with a lot of other ones, it's Matt Stafford and just his health. The question of that, playing behind that O-line. I don't know. Is it going to be like last year where Stafford just looked completely lost and any time that they got in the backfield, it looked like he was going to just run for his life and just try to throw it to Kupp, just find Kupp. That was like his safety net. Is that what the offense is going to be again? I'd say that's just my biggest concern in general. Is it just Stafford to Kupp? Stafford's only going to look at Kupp. That's why, like, for example, Talanoa Hufanga got that interception last year because he knew that all he was going to need to do was jump the route on Kupp, because Kupp's going to be right there and Stafford's going to be looking at him all the way. Even if it's not his first projection, he's probably going to be looking for Kupp. So that's my worry, is it's going to be the same offense as last year.
Maybe even worse, which is hard to believe because last year they had expectations coming off the Super Bowl, and they don't this year. Seahawks, though, however, last year were projected to be the worst team in this division and finished second.
Yeah.
And they upgraded a lot this offseason. Yeah. I think the biggest thing I like about this team is just they added to the defense. They got Bobby Wagner back. They got Draymond Jones. They drafted that guy that I really like, Devin Witherspoon, in the draft. What else did they do? They drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Who's apparently like this dude is Smith and Jigba. Like, apparently he's the real deal. Like, I haven't seen too much of him. I watched a couple of his highlights in the preseason, but like, if we're looking at wide receiver cores just as a whole, if you're taking DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and this dude Smith and Jigba, I don't think there's any other wide receiver core I'd take in the NFC West.
No, I wouldn't. But what about in Cincinnati with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd?
Yeah, I'm talking about NFC West.
Okay,
we don't need to go so far. We don't need to go so far as like the best core that's going to last just one more season, because one of those, I think Boyd's contract is up after this year. So
it's Higgins, sir.
Oh, is it Higgins?
Yeah.
Okay. But this core, It's looking nice for the Seahawks right now.
It's a good core. You like that core, huh?
I like that core. They're
All
working
right.
that core.
All right. The biggest thing I worry about with this team was last year just a fluke with Gino. Is it going to be legit?
Right.
Is he the guy that fills in for Russell Wilson and has that job for years to come? They had their opportunity to draft another quarterback when they had the 5th overall pick with Anthony Richardson, and instead did not do that. So I think it was 5th, whatever it was. Is Gino going to have a repeat of his comeback player of the season or of the year season a year ago?
Yeah. Man, you kind of hit it off the top, but I looked at it the past 2 years. You can make an argument that the Seahawks have had the best draft class these past 2 years, depending on how this year goes. But the guys that they drafted last year, Charles Cross, Kenneth Walker Jr. at running back, Tariq Woolen was one of the best corners, not the best in the game, but he's up there. Like, you can tell that they've got something with Woolen. And then they got Jamal Adams back too. And if Jamal Adams reveals any sort of like semblance to the Adams that he was with the Jets prior to these injuries, he might look different. He might not be the same Jamal Adams that everyone knows, but dude, they got a good thing cooking here. I was kind of underrating them going into this season. I don't know. I just remember thinking like the Niners were just so ahead of the pack that like the Seahawks almost looked like an inferior team compared to them. And maybe they just weren't that good, but like you really look at it, damn, they actually got a nice roster and they're building something there. But you're right about Gino. like is he going back to becoming Gino Thanks Smith, or just Geno Smith who doesn't write back to the people that wrote him off?
By the way, they also added Devin Bush, the old Steelers linebacker. That's going to be with Bobby Wagner in the middle. Tariq Woolen was, if it wasn't for Sauce Gardner, he might have been Defensive Rookie of the Year. Quadri Diggs. Jamal Adams, I got to be honest, I kind of forgot about him. And I don't really know if he has a place on this team with the way that they want to do things. He just needs to stay healthy. He needs to stop doing the Bob Sanders thing of just trying to get into a car crash every time he's on the field. He needs to make smart tackles instead of just trying to be like Jonathan Abram or Bob Sanders, where they just didn't care about their body and safety and just tried to lay somebody out. Got to be a little smarter.
Yeah. They'll need Kenneth Walker to stay healthy too. Didn't he get hurt towards the end of the season last year?
I know he's hurt currently during training camp. He has like a hamstring injury or ankle, something like that. And so does Zach Charbonnet. So they do have good running backs. So from what I saw with Zach Charbonnet and UCLA, but they just need to stay healthy. Healthy, and a lot of people are picking the Seahawks to take over the Niners in the NFC West. I'll let you know later if I agree with them. That's a tease, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
But as far as those Niners, they've won this division last year and have appeared in the NFC Championship game the past 2 seasons. Biggest thing I like about this team in the offseason was they acquired Javon Hargrave, who was a huge surprise for the Niners. That first couple of days of free agency, I think it was on the first day of free agency, actually, where it was kind of known that he was going to go back to the Eagles. The Eagles were going to prioritize other guys. And when you saw that he was going to team up with Nick Bosa, that's a big fucking deal. So I think that helps them on their defensive line. It, kind of weeds out the weak link of Javon Kinlaw. And, the Niners are the Niners. They have arguably the best defensive football. Just the biggest thing you worry about is, when's Nick Bosa going to show up? When's he going to finally get credit for being the arguably, and I know I've pushed back on this for years now. My dad and I argue about this. I'll say it now. Ugh. Nick Bosa is better than Khalil Mack. Right now he is. Right now. And probably will be for the rest of his career at this point, because Khalil's on the downslide. Still a great player, but Nick Bosa is who he is. So that's the biggest thing I worry about, is just when's Bosa going to show up? And the biggest thing that I worry about along with that is Brock going to be who we think he is? They made a huge move in trading away Trey Lance. It was the necessary move. They brought in Sam Darnold as insurance. But now with a year of film and all these coaches know what to expect from Brock Purdy, is he going to be the same guy that took the league by storm a year ago?
Dude, you had me thinking about Khalil Mack. It's crazy that he was drafted in 2014. He's been in the league almost a decade.
10 football seasons worth.
it's okay to say that Bosa might be better than Khalil Mack.
No.
Like, it's
I
okay
can't
to
fight
say
it,
that.
Steven. No.
And you're going to struggle with that with Max Crosby. Max Crosby's leaning in that direction too.
When Max Crosby wins Defensive Player of the Year, then I'll say that he's better than Nick Bosa. Or, I'll say he's better than Nick Bosa, and I'll say he's better than Khalil Mack.
All
but
right.
he hasn't done that yet.
All right. What I'll say is I think that this draft is not one that's going to be too flashy for them. I feel like I'm always talking about the draft with these things, but like this draft, I think is going to prove that no, it's not like they got a starter right away. It's not like they found like a Fred Warner type in the 3rd round, but I think drafting Oren Burks and I think, or at least picking up Oren Burks and then drafting Jair Brown, who could potentially take over for Tashawn Gibson, just in case Gibson's not the same as he was last year, because Gibson just burst out onto the scene. I don't know if another year's going to get to him or what, but Jair Brown looks primed to take over that spot. I think Jair Brown and him play the same position. I don't believe it's the same as Talanoa Hufanga. And then Oren Burks, it looks like he can just come right in and step in for Azeez Al-Shaair. So I like the things that they've done. I like their draft, but I also like I think Purdy can be that same guy. You know, something that I didn't like though, I don't like that they just stood pat with right tackle. I think that right side of the line is a huge question mark. You got Trent Williams, and watching the NFL Top 100 stuff and listening to guys talk about Trent Williams, like there's different ways that guys talk about players, you know, and then you get to like the top 15. I think he was number 14 on this list. I think he was number 14 the year prior. But when you get to Trent Williams, the players have gone off of talking about, you know, how good they are, how just their skill sets and everything like that. Like we're talking about a future Hall of Famer and like guys calling him one of the best, maybe the best to ever do it at his position. That's the type of player they have. And then Aaron Banks is great on the left side, but they didn't shore up that right side. Spencer Burford struggled last year. He was decent at times, but he mostly struggled. Colton McKivitz, I don't want to say anything about him because I've seen him up close and he is a massive, massive human being who could absolutely kick my ass. But I don't know what Colton McKivitz can do at right tackle that's as good as McGlinchey. And another thing to me, I think more than just Brock Purdy, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit here, but he hasn't played that much this preseason, if at all. He hasn't played at all this preseason, but McCaffrey, like the health of him last year, 17 games. That wasn't the rule for McCaffrey. That was the exception. He's normally been hurt pretty much every year. And Shanahan says they're not going to overwork him and stuff, but what does that really mean? Like, are you really going to not work the one player that you have? Because Shanahan's known to overwork guys. And I think that if he finds something with McCaffrey, it's just in his gut to overwork players and stuff.
Yeah, but they have a good stable of running backs where they can mix things up. I do believe him when he says that. I do think that he doesn't want to put him in a bad position that the Carolina Panthers were in where he was overworked.
But I mean, they still used him like almost exclusively.
They're going to use him, but they got other running backs they can spell. Elijah Mitchell, Ty Davis Price, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason. They'll get carries too.
Yeah, but like, see, Ty Davis Price, I'm not sold on. Jordan Mason, super powerful, super big. He's not going to get as many carries. And Elijah Mitchell, yeah, but he's also coming off major injuries as well. Like I don't trust him really to stay healthy as of yet. Maybe his are more like, you know, the unforced injuries. It's not like he's, you know, pulling a quad every single time. It's always what was it last year? A broken wrist. So I believe that's what it was. Maybe that was 2 years ago. There's been so many injuries with this damn team. I still worry about McCaffrey's health though, because McCaffrey, I think has become the engine that makes this offense work. I think he makes Brock Purdy a better quarterback. There seems to be a connection there. And the fact that he's two players in one, he's a receiver and a running back. Like this dude runs the best routes out of any running back in the league. They need him. So if he gets hurt, I won't be feeling too good, at least with them heading into the playoffs.
Let's switch over to the AFC West, and let's just not waste any time. Let's go to the Raiders.
Ugh.
Well, there's some things I like about that they did this offseason.
Yeah.
I do like the draft. I do like Tyree Wilson, and I do like Michael Mayer. But the biggest thing that I wonder about is when you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson, who they've made a commitment to. What did you do to upgrade the quarterback position? And that's something that you and I have talked about for most of the offseason once Derek Carr was not going to return. And once, that story came out that he was going to miss the last 2 games, he was benched, not going to show up even. It was important to me that they needed to upgrade that position. And to me, Jimmy Garoppolo is not upgrading. To me, he's a placeholder. And it may just be that Josh McDaniels didn't see a quarterback that he really liked. Aiden O'Connell could be that guy. But they passed on Aaron Rodgers. They didn't like any of the other quarterbacks as enough to go trade up. Like they could have made the move with the Arizona Cardinals to go to number 3 and take arguably Anthony Richardson, or I don't know what the other. I guess Will Levis was just something that no one was going to do in the first round. But Jimmy is just okay, and I don't think he really sparks any confidence or any excitement for fans,
Right?
And even guys on the team. Another thing you worry about is just Davante Adams' interest in this team. They can't fuck this up again. Like this can't be another Randy Moss situation where you get him, he's happy to be there initially, and then he's like, "Why the fuck am I here? I should go to New York and play with Aaron again." It seems like they're doing along the lines of the same thing with the Minnesota Vikings or Tennessee Titans, where they're trying to still win games but kind of evaluate things. You just don't want to lose the interest of Davante Adams and the fans at the same time.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's going to go to the Jets because the Jets don't have any picks left thanks to Aaron Rodgers. So if the Raiders trade him to the Jets, then they're dumb because they won't be getting any first-round picks until like 2026 or whatever it is. I do worry about that, but I'll tell you where they did upgrade as far as the quarterback. Maybe not talent-wise because, again, top 100. A lot of his highlights were these pretty damn nice passes from Carr, right? Like some pretty throws. However, one thing that they did upgrade with as far as their quarterback is Garoppolo. Believe it or not, I don't think he will. I don't think he'll lose them games like Carr did last year. Carr definitely, he didn't show up when it mattered at all. Like Garoppolo, say what you want about him, say what you want about the Super Bowl, but this team does not get to 2 NFC championships, one of which was followed by a Super Bowl. They don't get there without the quarterback at least making some clutch throws here and there. This dude is the reason that he wins ball games and why we attach wins to him so much is because it's the only number that stands out. And it's not the number that we should focus on, but that's not a number that Derek Carr is. It's not exactly like his win percentage is at 700. And it's not necessarily Carr's fault because the team they built around him also stunk. So you can go with that route. But there were definitely games last year. They could have been, I think, a 9-win team, depending on some of those games, if Carr actually made some throws. I go back to that Rams one, dude. I
know.
I go back to that Rams game. That interception right before the half or whatever it was. It's like the worst interception I've ever seen. So why they upgrade, they get a guy who understands McDaniel's system, sometimes to the fault of that system, but it seems Jimmy Garoppolo understands that, and it's going to be a lot of short, dink and dunk. We're going to meticulously move the ball down the field, boys. We're going to take a little hang slam. So you got a rolled up paper. There's going to be a lot of that this year. But I think there's a slight upgrade as far as just understanding the offense.
No doubt, but I don't think it's just anything that will be helpful in competing in that division.
No doubt. And I also wonder what their plan is at quarterback, though. Like, really, what is their
long term?
Okay, he's a placeholder, but what for? Aiden O'Connell? Is Aiden O'Connell going to be the guy you roll with?
I think they're going to figure that out this year. I think they'll figure it out fast.
Do they want to lose games? Do they want?
I don't think they want to lose games. I think that they want to stay competitive while also evaluating the roster.
Yeah,
and I think that this is where fans, like when I give my list of guys that could be on the hot seat this year, Josh McDaniels is not one of them.
No,
he's been given the benefit of the doubt, and he will fulfill this job until Mark Davis says, I didn't get my return on investment with you, and they're still going through that process. So whatever happens this season, Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler will be brought back for a third season. So I've got to cool our jets there.
Yep.
Broncos. Last year was a utter disaster. From the expectations of things between Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett to both just not panning out, and the Broncos knew they couldn't move on from Russell Wilson, so they fired Nathaniel Hackett. And I agree with that move. And I think Nathaniel Hackett's in a better spot with the Jets. If I was Sean Payton, I would have not gone to Denver. I would have done everything I could, maybe even take less money to go be the Chargers head coach. But they weren't going to do that, and the Broncos gave him what he wanted. So the biggest thing I do like about this team is Sean Payton. And I know that he's coming across arrogant and kind of John Gruden-y in his second stint in the NFL. But until I see otherwise, he is the real deal. He did win a Super Bowl. He did have those teams with the Saints always in contention. Was it, did things fail later on, like how many countless games they lost in the playoffs? Yes. But I really don't put that on Sean Payton. I think that he's going to make them a more disciplined team. I just don't know if it's going to translate to wins, and I don't know if it's going to translate to Russell Wilson being a better quarterback. And that's the biggest thing that I worry about with this team is Russell Wilson going to respond to what Sean Payton wants him to do? He, not doing the awkward shit this year. You don't see any weird Subway commercials or talk about him having his own office. Sean Payton probably, Russell Wilson wanted Sean Payton, and I wonder if Russell Wilson really wanted Sean Payton after everything that he wants him to do. So we're going to find out how dedicated to football Russell Wilson is, and that's kind of unfair because you don't really question that when he's winning so many years in a row with the Seahawks. But last year was weird, where he's doing TikToks and then he's having terrible games on Sunday. So hopefully that changes this year. I mean, I don't know. I don't really care that much. I hated the Broncos for most of my life, but
yeah,
I do want to see what Sean Payton with his team will be like.
No, this is the true test here for Russell Wilson. This is the year for him to kind of validate whether that trade was even worth it or it's going to teeter on the side of one of the worst trades that we've ever seen in NFL history. Because if he looks like the same Russell Wilson that he did last year, he looked a little leaner in the preseason and he had a couple of those runs against the 49ers, sure, but if he's the same Wilson as they had last year, a guy who just seemed unsure of himself, which is like, we didn't even see Russell. We saw Russell cook when he was with Seattle. Then with Denver, we saw him barely even broil. We saw him be put in the fridge, just not even allowed to cook, in the freezer even.
All right, we get it, Steven.
I'm trying to keep this now. I'm going to keep this metaphor going until I don't stop. But will he cook with Peyton? That's the question on everybody's minds. Look, what I love most about this team, to be honest, though, cornerback Pat Surtain and Justin Simmons at safety. I love their secondary. I think their defense is actually sneaky good just because they don't have a ton of huge names among that front seven. That front seven's decent. But boy, that secondary's really, it can be dangerous, man. But their offense, Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine, is Javonte Williams going to be that thumper that they had until he tore his ACL last year?
Mm-hmm.
Perine, Perine's fine. Perine's actually, I think Perine's a beast. Every time I see that dude on the field, I'm like, God, that guy's huge. But it all comes down to the quarterback. I think we all know that. And then those wide receivers do not stay healthy. I think that's also a problem too.
No, they do not. I think the only one that's healthy right now currently is Courtland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy's out for a couple weeks. Tim Patrick's out for the foreseeable future. They drafted a few guys.
Traded Noah Fant in that trade for Wilson.
Yep. So Albert O's gone. The guy with the last name that's long, the tight end. Mm-hmm. He's on with the Eagles now. So I think the only tight ends they have now are Greg Dulcich and Adam Troutman from the Saints. By the way, this is actually not bad. And I hate giving credit to Broncos, but this is the best nickname I've heard in quite some time. Patrick Surtain, you like PS2 for him? It's not bad.
Not for someone his age.
Why?
Because I bet you just never even heard of a PS2.
Oh, come on. You can't be that young.
He's pretty young.
Yeah, but PS2 was a thing for the longest time.
I know, but PS3 has been a thing since 2008. And what is he?
When was he born? Because PS2,
2000.
He was born in 2000?
Yeah.
I think that's when PS2 came out, so it's perfect.
So he's been playing PS2 since he was born?
Why not?
All right, fine. I just think if he gets that nickname, he'll tell. I never played on a PS2. I played on a PS3 though.
Well, sometimes you young fucking kids need to know about some old shit. Jesus, making me feel old.
Did you ever play PS2?
All the time.
Did you throw your controller?
Yes.
You're definitely a controller thrower.
Whenever my little brother and I would play Def Jam Vendetta, I would get into it.
Yeah. Of course.
Great game.
It's just like these young kids, man. They won't understand what PS2 was like.
They should know who they should know what a PS2 is.
PS2 is a good. It's a good nickname.
Yes.
It's a good nickname.
The Chargers. They really didn't make any upgrades in the offseason with the exception of getting Eric Kendricks as their middle linebacker. But in the draft, they went with Quentin Johnston. And at the time, I was like, okay, he's the same guy as Mike Williams. But then you see that with the effect he's having on the offense, and maybe that was the right move. I thought they should have gone with like someone like Zay Flowers to have like that slot guy, but maybe they just have a bunch of basketball guys playing wide receiver, just tall big dudes that go up and get the jump balls. And they also got other great receivers in Josh Palmer. Who's the guy that hurt his ACL a year ago? Jalen Guyton, I think, is still there. The only thing they really didn't do was upgrade the tight end position. They could have got like a Dalton Schultz or somebody. Instead, they're still going with Gerald Everett. So the biggest thing I like about this team is the addition of Kellen Moore, an offensive coordinator. I think that he's going to pass the ball a lot, and they pass the ball a shit ton. But I think you're going to see this be more of a down the field, throw it deep offense, as opposed to kind of the dink and dunk stuff we saw with Joe Lombardi a year ago. The biggest question mark is their own head coach going to put them in bad positions to lose games? Is Brandon Staley going to be too aggressive going for it on fourth down, not punting, not kicking field goals, blowing 27-point leads? Is he going to be a smart head coach and not look over his shoulder to have maybe the Spanos say, hey, Kellen Moore has improved the offense. Let's get him as head coach and get rid of Brandon Staley.
Yep. It's not the offense that's in question. Justin Herbert was hurt for most of last year just because of that game against the Jaguars, which we were at the athletic club for, and you were getting really pissed that he was playing. And when they were down, whatever it was,
38-10, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was stupid. But you're getting a fully healthy Justin Herbert. Every single time you start to doubt on Keenan Allen as a wide receiver, he seems to prove people wrong every year, even though he's getting up there in age. And that dude is a chains mover. And then you cap it off with Austin Eckler, who's a touchdown scorer. So they got pretty much everything that they need on offense. They got all the tools to be one of the most dynamic in the NFL. However, it's that defense, man. Can Brandon Staley actually take that defense to the next level because he's some sort of defensive whisperer? Or is it just going to be like last year where they're decent? JC Jackson is going to be back. We got hurt last year, but I think that the defense is the big question mark there. I think this team's going to score a lot of points. If you're a betting person, then I'd suggest taking the over on every single one of their games. You'll probably come out at least breaking even on that.
I don't know, man. I think that defense has got to show something a little more than last year with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa being,
for sure,
for my opinion, the best duo pass rushers in football if they could stay healthy together.
Yeah, but that's a big if, though.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be this season. And let's see what happens with J.C. Jackson back. He had a rough first year with the Chargers, but I like him finding out his groove with the team. And Derwin James, I think, is maybe the best safety in football. They should be better on defense, and especially in the run defense with Eric Kendricks in the middle.
Yeah, and then Asante Samuel Jr. too.
Samuel Jr.
Their secondary is gross.
And lastly, the defending champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. They really didn't do anything in the offseason. I can't think of anybody that they really got, with the exception of JYOM James to play left tackle for them. They got Donovan Smith and JYOM James. Donovan Smith's playing left, JYOM James playing right, so they had to replace Orlando Brown, who left. But when you're the defending Super Bowl champions, you really don't need to have a great offseason. You can just run it back with what you got. And that's what they did for the most part. The biggest thing that you worry about is just what's going on with Chris Jones. He's arguably the third best player on the team next to Mahomes and Kelsey. And how long are they going to be willing to go without him? They could just feel like, we'll just win games with Mahomes, but are they going to prioritize? Like, it'll be telling. Like, what happens week 1 against the Lions? If Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery run all over him, then the leverage is back in Chris Jones's favor. If Patrick Mahomes throws 5 touchdown passes and no one needs the defense, then we'll see about that. But the biggest thing that I question with this team is they won last year with Kadarius Toney and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, all these guys. But can they do it again? Can they have what I believe is kind of a subpar receiver room and not have like an elite guy like Tyreek Hill? They have the best tight end in football in Travis Kelce, but can they get by with lesser wide receivers?
Is Travis Kelce going to still be the best tight end in football? I think that's another question too. I mean, he's kind of like Keenan Allen, age, he's not defeated by father time just yet, but you're wondering, is this going to be the year that he's defeated by father time and Kelce just looks different? I don't know. Been partying a lot of new heights going on, a lot of different things outside of football. Who knows what could happen, but knowing Travis Kelce, he's probably just going to be the best in the league because the dude is unreal and proves everyone wrong every single year. I'm not worried about that wide receiver core, but Mahomes has proven he doesn't need a Tyreek Hill, and him and Andy Reid can draw stuff up to where they can negate whatever or they could fill whatever void was left by Hill those couple of years ago. So I'm not worried about that. It's all predicated on what Chris Jones does. It's another year with that secondary, which is decent. But that front seven, I don't really know what to make of it if you don't have Chris Jones anchoring that defensive line. So I still think this is the top team in the AFC, AFC West, at least. And I don't know, that quarterback show just will make you change your mind on Mahomes because they just got an absolute killer at quarterback and a guy who knows that he's the best in the league, yet still wants to win more. Like he's that type of player where kind of like a lot of the guys on the Warriors, it's like they get that one taste of that championship and then they just want more and more and more. And it's that type of feeling that becomes addicting, like to the point where your life just sucks if you don't win a Super Bowl. So Mahomes is on that level. He's trending towards the best of all time. I don't know. I just don't see any signs of slowing down with this team.
He's a killer. He could play for Jonathan Gannon any day of the week because he wants fucking killers.
Yeah, you think he's feeling that fire in his belly?
Yeah, he's probably taking the bus over on his huge contract. Who I
got fired. Oh my God, anytime.
I'm sorry. Like in hindsight now, that question was so dumb because he's asking NFL players that can afford, cars. Did you take the bus over here to training camp? Come on. What a dumb question.
Yep.
All right. We went through all the divisions. Let's finally actually pick these divisions. Are you ready, Steven?
Did you take public transit?
Stupid ass question. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, which division you want to start with?
Oh boy. Let's just start with the Easts and then work our way back to the Wests.
Let's do it. So we're going to pick where we think each division is going to go as far as final standings. Okay. All right, Steven. So let's go with the hyped up division that is the AFC East. A lot of moves made, obviously. Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. Dolphins getting Jalen Ramsey, but he'll be gone for a good amount of the season. You got the Buffalo Bills trying to defend this division, and then you got the Patriots who we'll see where they land. Belichick is supposedly his job's on the line. How do you see this division stacking up when it's all said and done?
Believe it or not, I don't know. Maybe I guess I'm drinking the green Kool-Aid.
Wow.
I am, man, but I'm that high on the Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to unlock Garrett Wilson. Sauce Gardner has proven that he can be a defensive player of the year candidate as a secondary member. That defensive line has been it looks like the Jets defensive line is going to take over the Eagles defensive line for the best in the NFL.
Yep.
Like that's how good they look this preseason. So I got the Jets taking this one. I got them at the top of the AFC East. I think they're going to win 13 games this year. I think they're going to be a damn good team. I think Aaron Rodgers is rejuvenated, found new life, and I think he'll get back to his MVP ways. Bills are going to be close behind, but I also question the Bills because it seems like they're always on that tier where they're like one of the best offenses in the league, but for some reason they can't figure it out. So I got the Bills there at number 2. I think the Bills are going to be a wild card team. And then I got the Dolphins. Then I got the Pats. I don't think the Pats are going to be very good at all, except their defense. Maybe their defense, but I don't think that offense is going to be scoring them many points.
I'm with you on the Jets defensive line. I think it could be right up there with the Eagles or Niners as the best units of football. I think that the Jets have done a lot of good things this offseason, from getting Rodgers to getting Dalvin Cook to just looking like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC. But similar to what the Buccaneers went through with Tom Brady, I don't think it's going to click just right away. And their schedule is really tough to start off, especially playing the Bills on Monday night, a week from today. And they got to go to Dallas. They got to play the Eagles, I think, shortly after that. It's going to be tough. So the way that I see it, I still like the Buffalo Bills a lot. And while they didn't make as much noise in the offseason as these other teams did, I thought for the longest time they were going to get DeAndre Hopkins. But in hindsight, I really don't think they need him. They needed to make Stephon Diggs happier again. I don't know what the deal was with that whole. That's what I'm talking about. This offseason was dumb because that storyline was just dumb. So the biggest things they did was, I guess, get Leonard Floyd to join that defensive line, which you could make the argument that they should be in that group as well with the Niners, Jets, Eagles. Von Miller's going to miss the first 4 games of the season, but I think they're going to see a smarter Josh Allen. I think the addition of Damian Harris is going to make them a better red zone team. So I like them. I like the Buffalo Bills to not only be the winners of the AFC East once again. I think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I like them to go 14-3. Wow. I like the Jets to have a kind of stumble out the gate a little bit. They probably go 3-3 to start, and then they start winning games. I got the Jets being your 5th seed wild card team with a 12-5 record. Before I mention the next team, I want to let everybody know. I think last year I picked a few teams to go 10-7 and not make the playoffs. I got 3 AFC teams that go 10-7 and don't make the playoffs. That's how competitive this conference is going to be. I got the Dolphins, who upgraded from a year ago. They should be a better team, but just how competitive this conference is going to be, I don't see them making the playoffs. And I got the going 10-7. And then I got the New England Patriots at 4th going 8-9. And I don't know if that'll be enough to keep Bill Belichick around. But that's how I see the AFC East go.
Yeah. I think the Jets are just going to come out firing, man. I don't even think it's going to take much time. I think they've.
That's fair.
I think they've mostly solidified what they do. They just needed to add a quarterback, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have them roll.
It's a lot of hype. It's probably the most hyped up team of all time. Let's see if they can really reap the benefits in the gold zone. Nathaniel Hackett. He loves Goldmember. Good Lord.
Loves that movie a little too much.
I did like in the last episode of Hard Knocks, though. I thought it was kind of badass. Robert Saleh driving around like he was Tony Soprano. They got the music in the background. I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah, that was the ode to him.
Yep.
Yeah. By the way, if you want my predictions, I'm going the Bills. I think they're going to go 12-5 this year. I got the Dolphins going. I'm with you. 10-7 seems like the appropriate number. And then the Patriots, I actually think they're going to go 6-11. I don't think they're going to be a very good team this year.
Ooh. And then would you have the Jets? Oh, you have the Jets winning 13 games?
13. Yep.
Okay. Let's move over to the NFC East, where you got the defending conference champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, you got the Cowboys, you got the Giants, and you got the Washington Commanders. Steven, how do you see it going?
I'm not going to lie. There was I've been going back and forth on this. I might regret it. But I was thinking about it after we did the Easts. And yeah, those coaching changes might be a bigger deal than we realize. They came out rolling last year, and I know they essentially replaced Javon Hargrave with Jalen Carter. But here's how I see it. I actually see the Eagles, believe it or not, because they do have a relatively tough schedule. I do see the Eagles as the second place team in this division, starting at the end of the year. I think the Cowboys are actually going to take it.
Wow.
I think the Cowboys got a pretty damn good team defensively. Micah Parsons is a potential defensive player of the year. On the offensive side, CeeDee Lamb's only going to get better. I don't think they're going to be held back by Ezekiel Elliott, which they were last year. And I just don't see the Eagles having 2 straight seasons where they're basically the hottest team in football for the entirety of the year. I'm not saying they'll take a full step back, but the Eagles just dominated last year. So I got the Cowboys. Can't believe I'm saying it. I got the Cowboys taking this one. I think they're going to be a 13-win team. I got the Eagles where the Cowboys were at last year. I think they're going to be a 12-win team. And then I got the Giants. I think they're going to be a 10-win team. And then I got the Commanders. And I think the Commanders, there's a chance they can go 9-8. I think this NFC East is actually pretty damn good. A little better upon revision.
So do you have all 4 of those teams making the playoffs?
No, I got 3 of them making the playoffs because the NFC is weak.
So you got the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants making the playoffs.
Yep. And
Okay.
but you know, but just wait till we get to those postseason ones, though.
Okay. All right. I hear you, and you have a good argument with the coaches not coming back. But I do think that the Eagles, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, they lost a lot of guys. I think they made good upgrades. And Jalen Carter could be just an unbelievable Hall of Fame defensive tackle. That it's premature to say that, but all the indications are this guy is going to be incredible. And I think them going so close to winning that Super Bowl last year is only going to make them that much hungrier this year. So while I do think you have the smarter prediction, Steven, this is crazy. No one's won this division back-to-back since 2004. I think the Eagles are going to do it. I got the Eagles repeating as NFC East champs, going 13-4, and I have them being the number 1 seed in the NFC once again. I got the Cowboys as your 5th seed at 12-5. I got the Giants. I went back and forth on this one because I think that the NFC is weak, but looking at the Giants' schedule, it gets a little harder. And while I do think Brian Dable is a good head coach, this is where I think Daniel Jones may regress a little bit. I got the Giants going 7-10. And then this is the one where I could be totally wrong about this. You got them going 9-8 with the Commanders. I do not. I see Ron Rivera's last season with the Commanders going bad. And I see them winning 3 games, going 3-14.
See, I don't buy that because that defensive line, they could get back to where they were. I really think that, and they got one of the best wide receiver corps. It is dependent totally on Sam Howell and what he does, but by all accounts, even though he was a 5th rounder in 2022, he seems to be the next guy. And I think that Commanders are not that bad. I really don't think they're that bad of a team.
I hear you, but Ron Rivera doesn't even know how good of a quarterback he is. So I don't know. I hear you. I could be totally wrong about this team. It's based primarily on what I don't know Sam Howell will be as a quarterback.
Okay.
They have talent on the defensive line, but you hear that Chase Young's already got a stinger. I think they're going to trade both of those guys. I think they're going to trade Chase Young. I think they're going to trade Montez Sweat, and they're going to try to rebuild and get more picks next season. They got a new owner. I think they're going to tear it all down this season.
I don't think any team in the NFC East is. I mean, I don't think they're that in the NFC. I mean, you got to be pretty damn bad if you're going to tear down your entire team in the NFC. Like, you should be contending if you're an NFC team.
Yeah, well, say that to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I know, but like the Cardinals don't have anyone coming back. They offloaded everybody. Yeah. I don't know. So
I could be totally wrong here. This is just when I look at their schedule and I do this shit with the NFL playoff prediction machine.
Yeah.
When I put all the games in, this is what I got with Washington. I see them winning 3 games. Yep. Let's go over to what I think is the best division in all of football, the AFC North. You got you could make the case that any of these teams could win the division. Now, Cincinnati has won the division the last 2 years, and they seem like the most playoff tested team of the bunch because just what they've gone through the last 2 seasons. They went to the Super Bowl, lost to the Rams. They were so close to beating the Chiefs once again in the AFC Championship game. They got Orlando Brown on the offensive line. They drafted well. Just you don't know what's going to happen with Joe Burrow and that calf. That's the only thing that's kind of weird, and his contract. So you got these other teams. Pittsburgh did very well towards the end of the season last year. Looked good in the preseason. Baltimore trying to be more of a pass-happy offense. And Cleveland, who everyone seems to not like for good reasons, but I'm going to keep it football related here. Steven, how do you see this division panning out?
This one's tough because they're all really solid, but somebody has to lose. Like there's somebody on there. I mean, you can't just be going 9-10 win teams every single division. I do have the Bengals leading it. I actually think the Bengals are going to be damn good this year. Yeah, like on a, I don't know. I think they could be a 13-14 win team. That's, I mean, give or take a couple of games. I think they're going to be damn good this year. I actually think they could be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I might have them there if Joe Burrow can stay healthy. But then number 2, high on the Steelers, man. I think the Steelers are a damn good football team, and I think they're going to make it in a wild card spot. And you give Mike Tomlin a decent team, that's a 9-win team easily. But you give him a team like they have now, if TJ Watt stays healthy, I actually see them being a 12-win team. I do this year. And it's crazy to think, but yeah. And then the Ravens, I'm not as high on the Ravens as a lot of people are. I know you got the Lamar Jackson factor, and you get a wide receiver in Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham. I understand all that. And then Roquan Smith, I guess, too. But they could be a 10-win team also. And then the Browns, I don't know what to make of the Browns. I don't know what to make of them. I could see them going 8-9, or out of nowhere, Deshaun Watson can surprise you and they can win 11. I don't know what to expect from the Browns.
So I'll start with my winner.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hardest division to pick. I think all 4 will be well above 500 when it's all said and done.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of which teams are going to all make the playoffs. I think the Bengals do it again. I think that Joe Burrow will be fine. I think that they have the best roster out of all of them, and they have the best quarterback. So I see them going 13-4 and being your 3rd seed in the AFC. Then coming up second, and this one I know everyone's not going to agree with me on, but I picked them to win the division last year. I just think they have a lot of talent on the team, and I know that he didn't look good in the limited time that he played last year, but I still, despite all of the terrible things that he's done, I think that Deshaun Watson is going to be a good quarterback with the Cleveland Browns. And I think getting Elijah Moore is going to help them. I think Za'Darius Smith coming over is going to help them. And to be real, Kevin Stefanski needs to keep his job. And Deshaun Watson needs to start panning out for this team, because they can't have it every week where the talk of him is all the other shit. So this is crazy, but the way that I see it, I got the Cleveland Browns going 12-5 and being your 6th seed in the AFC. And then I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be really good. I think they're going to be an improvement of last year, but I don't think it's going to translate to a ton of wins this season. Same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. I got to see how this offense is going to look with Lamar Jackson throwing a bunch. I think that it sounds good. It's something that I would do, but I want to see how it looks. You read the thing about him throwing 9 interceptions in a practice.
Right.
That's just practice, but is he really going to just be comfortable with throwing the ball, or is he going to revert back to what he knew with Greg Roman and run a bunch? And let's see how healthy Odell is. So I got the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers both going 10-7, but missing the playoffs.
Wow. God.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Be an AFC team.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go to the NFC North.
Woo.
A lot of changes. Aaron Rodgers leaving. You got the Vikings dismantling the team, but still trying to be competitive. Justin Fields trying to get you know, they were the worst team in football a year ago, but he looked impressive. Let's see if he can throw. And then you got the Detroit Lions, who for the first time in a long time are the favorites to win this division. Jordan Love taking over for Aaron Rodgers. Steven, what do you make of the NFC North?
I don't think the Vikings have done anything to make themselves better. Actually, I don't. They have a relatively easy schedule. The NFC North does. This one was hard to choose because also last year Vikings, sure they got 13 wins, but how many of those were one-score games? Can they?
Most of them.
Can they survive on that? Unlike a lot of these other leagues, I don't think there's going to be a team with more than 10 wins on this roster, or on this in this division rather. I actually do see the Lions being a 10-7 team, but then right after that, I got the Vikings going 9-8. I don't think they're going to be very good with Kirk Cousins this year. I think, I know that we said with Dalvin Cook the entire time we were on Cook Watch, it's hey, they're going to go with they're going to go with Alexander Madison. I don't see where the upgrade is there. I think that's a total downgrade. Madison has been more of a backup to me. I could be totally wrong on that, but I see them being 9-8, and I actually see that for that same thing for the Bears as well. I don't think the Bears, they're going to be good. They're definitely going to be a lot better than they were last year, which was the worst team in the league. And then the Packers, I see them with the same record. I don't know if Jordan Love is going to take them to the next level. So I think they're going to be both
all 9-8.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be. Well, the Vikings and the Lions are going to be 10-7, and then the next two are going to be 9-8.
So do you have the Lions and Vikings making the playoffs?
That's going to come down to the tiebreaker. I don't know who's going to make it through there from the division, but I think I'm not seeing any wild card teams out of the NFC North.
So wait, who's win the division then?
I don't know. I guess the Lions. It'll be a tiebreaker thing. I don't think any of them are going to be more than 10-win teams this year.
All right, Steven. I actually have a winner, unlike you, for whatever reason. I am buying the hype of the Lions. I do think that they're going to be a better team. I like everything they did this offseason. It's just a matter of, do you believe in the Lions and do you believe in Jared Goff? I do like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot. And when they get Jameson Williams back, I think they're going to be a potent offense. So, but do I think they're going to be a great team in the NFC compared to the Cowboys and Niners and Eagles? No. But I do have them being the third seed in the NFC. So I have the Lions winning 11 games, going 11-6.
Crazy.
I got the Green Bay Packers at the second spot in the NFC North, not making the playoffs, but having a first good season with Jordan Love. It's favorable. Same record they had a season ago, going 8-9. And then I think the Vikings did too much tearing down of this team. So I see them going 6-11 and being third. And then Chicago, I think they made a lot of upgrades, but I want to see how it translates to wins. So I got the Bears going the same record as the Vikings, going 6-11 and going fourth in that division. You gotta crawl before you walk. They won 3 games last year. They could bump it up to 6, but I'm not there yet to be saying that the Bears are going to be the division champs like a lot of people are.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go over to the AFC South, where you got the Jacksonville Jaguars winning the division for the first time in a while. You got the Tennessee Titans getting DeAndre Hopkins. That was disgusting. And you got the Houston Texans and Indianapolis Colts rolling with rookie quarterbacks. Steven, are the Jags going to win this division by default?
Yes. Yes, they are. I think the Jaguars are going to pick up 12 wins this season. I got them at 12-5. And then, believe it or not, I was looking back on it, and maybe just maybe the Titans won't be as bad as we all think. I don't think they're going to be good by any stretch. I think they're going to be 8-9, but Like, I don't think they're going to be as bad as, they're going to be in the shoe-in for the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think Hopkins is going to fall under the Julio Jones category either, where it's just like, this is where his career totally goes to die. I think DeAndre Hopkins still has something left. I think the Titans, their defensive line with Jeffrey Simmons, I told you how much I like them. They got veterans along that defense. I think they're going to be a little bit better than everyone thinks. But I don't have them above 500. I got them at 8 and 9. And then the Texans, they're going to go nowhere fast. I got the Texans in 3rd, but I got them just being a 6-win team. Nothing crazy. And then the Colts, I don't think the Colts are picking up more than 3 wins this year. Colts are not going to be good.
Does Jonathan Taylor play for them at all this season?
I don't think so.
Yeah, me neither.
I think it's trending that way.
I'm with you. I think the Jaguars win this division by default. I think that they just have the best roster, bar none.
Yeah.
So I got them winning 10 games, going 10-7. I still think they're going to be a little rough with the other competition in the AFC, but I think 10 wins is good enough to win this division. Because Tennessee is the second best team in this division, and I don't see them winning a lot of games. I got them going 6-11. I don't think that they're going to have much success. I think that they tore this team down a little bit too much, the same as the Vikings. Tannehill will get benched at some point. It's just a matter of whether it's going to be Malik Willis or Will Levis. Will DeAndre Hopkins be happy being there? Will Derrick Henry be traded at some point? I think there's too many question marks. I wonder even about Mike Vrabel's job security. I just see them going 6-11. And then I got the Colts and the Texans both making, improvements, you could say, with their quarterback positions and playing well, but they'll struggle. They'll really struggle this first year. I got the Colts and the Texans. Colts 3rd, Texans 4th, both winning 4 games, going 4-13. So it's not going to be the most competitive division of all time.
No.
And then we go to the NFC South. You got Derek Carr coming over. You got a lot of hype with Bijan Robinson and the Falcons. Panthers draft Bryce Young. Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield. How does it pan out, Steven?
Well, I got I think it's pretty obvious. The Saints are going to be the top team out of the South. The wild card is going to the wild card. Literally, I don't know if it's going to be a wild card in the playoffs, but the Falcons, they're a total wild. I think they got talent all around them, but Desmond Ridder, can he actually just keep them from losing these games? Because along with Arthur Smith and the secondary, you got a lot of talent on this team. And offensive line is where Arthur Smith shines as well. I'm kind of going all over the place with them. But I think they can surprise some people. And as we mentioned when we were doing our South's preview, the NFC South has along with the NFC West, actually, the NFC South and the NFC West, those two divisions have just about the easiest schedule on the roster. Can't believe I'm doing it. But I actually got the Falcons being a 10-win team. I think they're going to come in 2nd place. I got the Saints winning 12 games. And then you follow that up, and that's where I don't think things are going to go too great. I don't think the Panthers are going to do anything. I think the Panthers are going to be 3-14, and I actually think the Bucs are going to win like 2 games this year.
Yeah, I got the same as you. I got I think Derek Carr will help that team. I think they got a good defense, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to have like a high win total. But they'll win 10 games. I think the Saints win the division and they go 10-7, similar to the Jags.
Yeah.
And then I like the Falcons. Not to the point where that everybody else likes them, but I do see them being a 9-8 team and being your 7th seed in the NFC. Saints at 4, Falcons at 7. And then the last 2 teams, it's just way too much for Carolina to start out the gate with Bryce Young. So I have them winning 4 games, going 4-13. And then Tampa Bay, I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in football, just winning 2 games this year. And then they'll trade Mike Evans at the deadline, and that'll be the end of the Todd Bowles era in Tampa.
Dude, it's weird, though. Looking at that roster, like their defense, it remains largely the same that it was with that 2021 team. They're just all out.
Yeah.
Like they've given up on them. It's crazy.
Yeah. Devin White doesn't even want to be there. It just seems like a bad time at Tampa right now.
And with Carr, like, how much do we have to keep on repeating it? It's not what he does in September, October. You know how much Dan Orlovsky is going to go off on ESPN about how good Derek Carr is?
Yeah, I
and how
know.
much we've been writing him off. It's going to happen all season because they do need to fill content. But in the grand scheme of things, what does he look like in cold weather games playing in the playoffs? No one knows.
But did you see their schedule?
Yeah.
And the opposing quarterbacks are playing, it seems beneficial to them for the most part.
No, the regular season schedule's fine, but it's when they make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. With you.
Like with those big games, lights are brightest. Carr has shown that when the lights are brightest, sometimes he gets a little, how should I say it? He overthinks a lot in these big games.
Oh, man.
You could tell. Oh, man. But I think they're going to be doing just fine in the regular season. And you look at the December schedule, not hard at all. So it's not like he might have his best December that he's ever had going into his, 9th year?
Yeah, it might be a long December, but there's reason to believe, Stephen. All right. Lastly, the Wests. Which one do I go with first, AFC or NFC?
Let's go with the AFC. Keep it on track.
All right. So we got the AFC West. You got the defending champs, the Chiefs. You got the Chargers. You got the Broncos. And you got the Raiders. We just went through this division about a half an hour ago. So when it's all said and done, Stephen, do you think the Chiefs repeat once again?
Yes. Yeah. I think they're going to come out on top. I have no reason to doubt Mahomes. The Chargers, I think, could give them a run for their money, but the Chiefs are just too battle tested, I think. And considering how easy this schedule is, I think Mahomes is going to, or not how easy this schedule is, considering the Chiefs have the easier schedule among the AFC West teams. AFC West teams mostly actually have a tough schedule, but the Chiefs have the easier brunt of it. I think the Chiefs are going to be damn good. I'm not saying they're number one because I still have the Bengals as the 1 seed. But I got them going 13-4, same thing as the Chiefs. And that's where it confuses me on the seeding there, because I would have the Bengals 1, the Jets 2, then I guess the Chiefs 3, and then the Jags 4 if I had to line up my division winners. Okay. But I see them being a 13-win team this season. Then the Chargers, I actually got them going 12-5. Going to be a damn good team. It's a toss-up with them. Yeah, the Raiders, not going to be that great. I think they're going to be like a 9-8 squad. And then then the Broncos are going to be 7-10.
Okay. Let me go in reverse.
Ooh.
The Raiders, I'm trying to make all the arguments I can in the world for them to be better than what I'll give them, but from what I see and what their schedule is, I see them making minimal improvements and going 7-10. I think that they can hold their own in the first few games of the season. Their schedule is actually favorable when we start playing games, but towards the end, it gets a little more rough. And I'm going to say this by also knowing that Josh McDaniels' job security will not be on the line. So 7-10, we'll see if Devontae Adams gets upset, but I don't see them being better than that. And I do think the Broncos will improve. I'm not ready to say they're a playoff team yet, but I see them going third in that division, going 8-9, making much more improvements than they did a year ago. I think they won like 5 games last year.
Yep.
Offense will be better. Russell Wilson will look better. It's just not enough yet right out the gate. So I see them going 8-9. And of course, I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win the division, right? A year ago, I picked the Raiders to win the AFC West.
Yeah.
You think I would have learned my lesson, but no. I'm not going to go with the Chiefs. I got the Chiefs going second. I think that all this stuff with Chris Jones will be a factor. I think the receiving core will struggle at times. Not saying that Mahomes is not going to have a down season, but I don't think it's going to translate as well as it did a year ago. And I think the Chargers have more talent now. I do. And I think Justin Herbert's going to have a really good season. I think it's all just regular season stuff. We'll see if it translates to the postseason. But I like the talent of the Chargers. So I may be the only person doing this, but I got the Chargers going 13-4 and being your second seed in the AFC.
Wow.
I got the Kansas City Chiefs, because it's packed in this AFC, going 12-5 and being your last seed at number 7. And then you got the Denver Broncos at 8-9 and the Raiders at 7-10.
Interesting.
Yep.
What makes you down on the Chiefs comparatively?
Just because I don't really have a lot of faith in their receiving core right now. I think the Kadarius Toney and all those guys are fine, but I think it's kind of like when Mahomes and everybody went through their struggles 2 seasons ago, where they went out the gate and they went like 2-2. I think they're just going to lose more games because they got uncomfortable being champions. And while everyone will be fiery and whatnot, they'll still be a playoff team. It's kind of like the Warriors, where I think that they'll be good but not great. And I think this will be kind of a down year for their standards.
Interesting. All right.
I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, as we all can.
Then we got the West, the NFC West.
Yeah.
49ers, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals. I think we're all penciling the Cardinals in at 4th.
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay. So what's your order then?
Believe it or not, man, like the 49ers, I don't think there's any stopping this team. They're a train they're just a freight train from hell. They really are. They just continue to roll through teams. They got so much talent. Looks like they have a revamped Debo. We'll see how Ayuk responds to that, if Debo happens to get more targets, and whether Ayuk's okay with being kind of second fiddle if Debo looks like the Debo Samuel they're used to, or if, maybe they have 2 1,000-yard receiving wide receivers. I don't know. We'll see if that happens, but I think they're on a freight train, man. Plus, that schedule's easy for them. They got an easy schedule.
Do they now?
They do.
All right. Well, what's their win total?
14.
Wow.
I got them being a 14-win team. I think they're going to be the number 1 seed heading into the playoffs. I think they're that good. I got the Seahawks going 10-7. I got the Rams going 4-13. And then I got the Cardinals going 1-16.
Yep, I got the same win total for the Cardinals. I just see one winnable game, the whole schedule. That probably will not happen, because every time we expect the worst team of football to be the worst team of football, and never happens. But seems likely this year. So I got the Cardinals going 1 win with 1-16. I got the Rams going 5-12. I think the talent of Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Donald will win more games than people think, but just 5. I got the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks both going 11-6.
Wow.
And I know people expect more wins from the Niners. That schedule is harder than you think, Steven. Just saying.
Why?
Because they're teams they can lose to. They can lose to the Cowboys in the regular season. They can lose to the Eagles. They can lose to teams in their own division, mainly the Seahawks. They can lose to the Bengals. They can lose to the Browns. They could lose to the Jaguars. That's how I see things going. While they go 11-6, it's not really detrimental to the rest of the NFC. It's not detrimental to themselves, because that division that conference is not really as competitive as the AFC. So I got the Seahawks and the Niners going 11-6, but I got the Niners still winning the division.
Okay.
So I got Niners 1, Seahawks 2. Niners are your 2 seed. Seahawks are your 6 seed in the NFC West.
All right. Okay. Well, I got the Niners as the 1. I got the Cowboys as the 2. I got the Saints as the 3. I got the Lions as the 4. Then I got the Eagles as the 5, the Giants as the 6, then the Seahawks as the 7.
Yeah, in the NFC, I got Eagles 1, Niners 2, Detroit 3, New Orleans 4, Dallas 5, Seattle 6, Atlanta 7.
Man, that'd be a hell of a glow up for the Lions if they're just a 3 seed in the NFC. That'd be wild.
And then what do you have in the AFC? It was all over the place with Cincinnati and New York.
Yeah, Cincinnati's number 1. New York is number 2. The Chiefs are number 3. The Jags are number 4. Then I got the Bills, the Chargers, then the Steelers.
I got the Bills 1, Chargers 2, Bengals 3, Jags 4, Jets 5, Browns 6, and yes, Chiefs last at 7. But they make the playoffs. And then, what do you think for the conference championship? Who you got? Is it going to be a repeat of Niners and Eagles once again?
Yep. That's the thing. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I absolutely think they're going to make it through the wild card. Bye week be damned. I think the Niners are going to have one. Then it's going to be the NFC Championship. Oh, that'll be an interesting game. And then the AFC.
But this time in San Francisco.
Yes, correct. Okay. And then in the AFC, I got the Jets in the AFC Championship, and I got the Bengals too. I think Jets and Bengals are primed for a 1-2 matchup. I think they're going to be the two best teams in the AFC this year.
And who wins these games?
Bengals are going for the AFC. I don't believe in the Jets to go that far. I think the Bengals are that battle tested, and they're just that good. Especially it depends on where it's at too. Like if it's in Cincy, I can't tell you where it's going to be, home or away, but if it's in Cincy, then I think Cincy's got a real good shot as opposed to it being on like the MetLife turf or the JetLife turf. But I got the Bengals going all the way this year. I think they're primed for another Super Bowl run. I know the Chiefs are the Chiefs, but I just don't see it be their year. Obviously, there's a long way down the line. And then with the 49ers and the Eagles, it's a tough one. But I got the Eagles coming out on top again. I just think I think Jalen Hurts is going to have that type of performance that he did not have against them last year. I think Brock Purdy could be healthy, and it should be a good one. But I think the Eagles can be damn good.
And who wins the Super Bowl between the Bengals and Eagles?
I think the Bengals are. I think this is the Bengals' time. Yeah. And this is the third straight year, I think, or the potential of the third straight year ever in the AFC North where a team can win it. I think the Bengals are going to do that. I think it's going to be their Super Bowl year. I think they're doing everything. So I think Bengals are going to win.
I like it. Which makes you wonder if Joe Burrow wants to wait until then to sign that contract, because then he'll get more money. I see both conference championship games being between division opponents. So in the AFC, I got it's going to be an all East conference championship. I got the Jets playing the Bills in the AFC championship game. And then in the NFC, I don't see the Niners making it. Wow. I got the Cowboys and Eagles in your NFC championship game.
Wow.
Yep.
Damn.
I see Brock slipping up along the way. I do.
Yeah, you think those interceptions are? Do you think those interceptions are anything to care about, or are you just kind of
in practice? No, but I do think that with more, like I said earlier, with more film and more knowledge of Brock Purdy's strengths and weaknesses, I think more teams will put him in difficult situations.
God, damn, that's crazy. If the Niners don't make the NFC Championship this year,
I don't see it this year. I see. But then again, I said they go 8-9 last year, but also I was expecting Trey Lance to play. So, but yeah, I see the conference championships being all East, Jets, Bills, Cowboys, Eagles, and in the end, I see the Eagles and Bills prevailing. And your Super Bowl between the Bills and Eagles ends with the Bills beating the Eagles.
You're that high on the Bills, huh?
I am, because I think they're flying under the radar. I think that last year they had more hype and expectations with Josh Allen supposed to be MVP. And now they're just sitting back being like, all right, everybody likes the Jets now. Okay, good for you. Everybody thinks that we're the bickering Bills again because Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are yelling at each other. I don't see that happening. I think that they're actually going to be really good this year.
I'm going to go back to the top 100 once again. I'm going to reference it.
You love that top 100.
Well, dude, it's all I got to go off of because I've actually been watching it like at a crazy rate. Like I've had it on just like as I'm like cooking or cleaning, whatever I'm doing in the kitchen. But dude, the relationship that they have, it's crazy to me to think that it's just fractured by something that happened in the offseason. Like, what was Stephon Diggs going after Haley Steinfeld or something? Like, what went on between the two? Because, dude, do you remember when I brought up that the night before the game, there was some rumor that Josh and Stephon Diggs got a falling out because I guess Stephon Diggs knew his old girlfriend, and once he found out he was cheating on his old girlfriend with Haley Steinfeld, that's what led to this whole thing. I don't believe it for a second, but that was out there. Wow. Well, the scene in the top 100, the mic'd up that they showed at Thanksgiving, where they're kneeling next to each other, and yes, AJ Cruz 75, Haley Steinfeld, the actress. Yeah.
No, the president.
Haley
Steinfeld, the actress.
what's the deal with Josh Allen? But there's a scene where they're like kneeling next to each other at Thanksgiving during the Thanksgiving game, and like Diggs is like, "I'm thankful for you, man," and then like, more than you know, and he starts crying.
They got love. By the way,
Dude,
you were waiting for Matthew Wright to be signed by the Niners.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you could post that. Hey guys, you know Matthew the kicker.
What do I have to?
You were so excited when you saw that news to post.
I was like, when I saw former Steelers kicker, I'm like, this dude's Matthew. Oh my god! Do I have to show it?
No. We've seen it before, but
yes, yeah, it was my favorite thing.
Y'all
of all
know
time.
Matthew, guys. He's a kicker. Matthew.
Matthew the kicker, baby. There you go, little thug. Matthew the kicker, baby.
All right. Should we do our awards? You know what? We've been going for a long here, Steven. We may have to do these. You want to do your picks tomorrow along with BS High and Swamp Kings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Then let's. All right. Then we got a show tomorrow, guys.
We gotta. Yeah. This thing's been going on for a while.
I underestimated how long these picks would take. Let's. Yeah. I'll be home tomorrow early. Let's do 5:30, and maybe we get Lorenzo Neal on tomorrow. We'll see. Fingers crossed. No, not holding our breath there. It's been a long.
Can we play one more thing just to close this out? Just one thing.
Real quick.
Okay.
Let me get your regular season awards.
Okay. Oh, we're going with the awards then.
Yes. We'll do your picks for week 1 tomorrow, along with the BS High and Swamp Kings, but just the regular season awards to go with the predictions. Who you got winning MVP?
Well, since I got him winning the Super Bowl, I got Joe Burrow winning it this year. Like, NFL loves these back-to-back guys. I think they'd love Mahomes to win it again, but I think Burrow's about to have just an unbelievable season. So I'm going Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think Justin Herbert's going to have a really big season. I think to the point where he's got all these receivers now, where he's going to throw a shit ton of touchdowns, maybe even in the 50s, maybe 5,000 yards passing. I see Justin Herbert winning MVP, and then winning what should be always the case, the Offensive Player of the Year award, because I don't understand the rationale of, well, he's not MVP, but he's Offensive Player of the Year. Justin Herbert wins both those awards. Do you have the same with Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I never like, it's always like, well, this guy led the league in rushing, or it's like it's the same thing. MVP and Offensive Player of the Year, it's the non-QB award, but this year will be. Defensive Player of the Year. Who you got, Steven?
Michael Parsons is the favorite, but I believe it or I think Myles Garrett's going to win this one this year.
Ooh.
I think there's going to be a little pressure taken off of him, bolstering that defensive line a little bit. I got Myles Garrett taking it. This dude's a stud. So if he's
little thug,
if he's healthy, get Myles Garrett.
I got Micah Parsons winning. But I do think that Myles Garrett gets more sacks. I think that turnovers will be a big thing with Micah Parsons, the forced fumbles. I think that will be enough for him to win Defensive Player of the Year because he's come up second the last 2 years to Nick Bosa and TJ Watt. So I got Parsons winning that award. Who you got going for Coach of the Year?
Well, Coach of the Year is a different type of award, right? The NFL trends in the favor of those guys that take a team from really nothing and have built it and just have taken a massive leap. And I think the biggest leap is going to be taken by the Falcons. I got Arthur Smith winning this one.
Nice. That sometimes is the case. Usually, like the season where Kyle Shanahan turned around the 4-12 Niners to go to 13-3 wasn't enough for him to win Coach of the Year. They gave it to John Harbaugh. So I don't really know what the credentials are to win this award anymore. I think it's just the best story. But if we're going by, who exceeded expectations, I'm going to give the award to Kevin Stefanski. If I got them winning 12 games this year, and he's already won it before, if he keeps his job and the Browns are a 12-win team, I think that's more impressive than what we already expect with the Lions. Like, I think if the Lions win the NFC North, okay, it's impressive, but I don't think it's enough for Dan Campbell to win the award. If Robert Saleh and the Jets win games, I don't think that Robert Saleh is going to get the credit, which is unfortunate. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. Same thing with when Bruce Arians and the Buccaneers turned things around. It all went to Tom. So to me, I think the thing that makes the most sense is Stefanski winning the award based on my predictions. Then we got comeback player of the year.
This one feels weird. Does it not? It's just it's a weird award to kind of get. I mean, it's DeMar Hamlin. It's gonna be DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Dude, he's the heavy favorite to win.
Yeah, that shit. Yeah, that's
DeMar Hamlin is gonna be it. He almost died on the football field last year.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's gonna be back.
I didn't even think about that. Yep. It's not even worth going through the other ones. Okay, I'll give you my pick though.
Well, it's him and Tua. It's a toss up between him and Tua as the comeback players of the year. So what Tua went through. That's what the betting numbers are saying.
Can I say one thing about Tua before we go to the rest of these awards?
Tua.
I don't want it to be every week where we worry about this guy and his concussions. If he's willing to play, then that's like what it is. Like I think every year there's some story that comes out where people are like, "Are you surprised with how the NFL does things like this?" Yes, from Bounty Gate to Richie Incognito's bullying to the concussions of a year ago. I think people get just shocked by things that happen in the NFL, and I don't know. Me personally, I don't. Like this is just football. Sometimes was what happened. What happened with Tua a year ago? Unfortunate, absolutely, 100%. And I hope he doesn't suffer another concussion. But things like that happen sometimes, and I think that it shouldn't be just like a huge uproar when things like that happen. So I'm hoping that people are a little more laid back this NFL season. Two things I'm hoping for the most is that things off the field don't take over storylines. What's on the field. That's really naive of me to think, but I'm hoping that. And I'm really hoping we get a lot more Whopper commercials this season.
No. Rather not.
Nick, stop that. But as far as comeback player of the year, would you hate me if I picked Deshaun Watson?
Yes.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, "There's no way in hell anyone's going to give him that award."
No, there's
like they'll win 12 games, and everybody's like, "Ew, gross," which is fair. It's totally fair, but no chance in hell they're giving him that award. If
there's a joke that I'm gonna hold off on.
No, do it. Come on.
No, just think of the name of the award and then just draw your own conclusion. So
like that old Parks and Rec.
Exactly. Oh man.
Well done. No,
terrible.
I think it's going to be Calvin Ridley.
Okay.
Being away from football for 2 seasons. I think everyone's forgiven him, even though he was made example of with the gambling. I think he deserves the award.
Yeah, that's a good one. Solid pick.
And then you got the rookies of the year.
Yeah.
Who you got being offensive and defensive rookie?
Well, it's kind of easy for the offensive, in my opinion. I actually think it's down to 2. I don't think Bryce Young's going to do it. I don't think that offensive line will hold up. I think Anthony Richardson's going to do a lot of flashy things, but I think Bijan's going to be the guy who takes it home after all. Like Bijan seems to be like just on another level, and maybe he's the type of running back that can really lead the Falcons through the NFC South and maybe having a over 500 record. And then defensive rookie of the year, take your pick. Will Anderson looks great. Jalen Carter looked great. It looks great. It's going to come down to those two. Maybe I'll go Will Anderson just because he'll probably get the sack totals up there. And just because of the higher amount of sacks, he'll probably get that over Jalen Carter. Plus, who knows how much the NFL really wants Jalen Carter to win defensive rookie of the year after everything that happened.
That's a good point, Stephen. I think that it will not be Bijan Robinson winning offensive rookie of the year. I think it's going to be the other running back taken in the first round. I think it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs.
Wow.
I think with the amount of reception he'll probably get and the rushing yards, I think that it will be more of an Alvin Kamara. Even though Bijan Robinson may get more rushing yards, I think scrimmage yards will play a factor a little bit more with the Riders, and I think that he will get more touchdowns overall. I got Jahmyr Gibbs winning that award.
Dude, if that's the case, that's going to be that's just going to be egg in the face to every single draft expert. There's not one like that I can think of this year from the draft, that stood out as like potential with bust potential. That was like questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Normally the Raiders, it's reserved for the Raiders, but that didn't happen this year with number 7. Crazy enough. But Jahmyr Gibbs was the only one where everyone's kind of scratching their heads, wondering what they were doing.
I know, and I was right there with him. But if you think about it, the way they want to use him, it sounds like he's going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to the running back position. Now, I mean, we've seen running backs catch passes before, but I think this is a guy that's really going to be a wide receiver / running back, basically. And then defensive rookie of the year. Everyone likes Jalen Carter. Will Anderson's there too. I think that Jalen Carter is going to be switching in and out a lot of the time. He'll probably have a lot of wow defensive rookie of the year moments, but I don't think it'll be enough for him to separate himself as far as sack numbers or whatnot, because he'll be on that defensive line with the Eagles that a lot of guys get sacks. I think the guy that's going to have the biggest presence as far as a defensive rookie is going to be Will McDonald with the Jets. Saw him a little bit in Hard Knocks. He's a guy that could force fumbles a lot. I think that he'll be the number one pass rusher on that team. Quentin Williams is great as an interior guy, but as far as a pass rusher, I think it's going to be that guy, Will McDonald, defensive rookie of the year.
So I got the other Will. You got Will McDonald. Fair enough.
Yep. All right. Well, this went a lot longer than we thought. So let's do this again tomorrow. We'll do our picks for week 1, although I'll save mine for Saturday. But Steven, since you'll be gone this weekend, we'll have you do your picks tomorrow, including we'll both pick the Thursday night game, but we'll have Steven pick all the games tomorrow. I'll give you my fired coaches, the ones I don't think. I gave you all the predictions, and I'll tell you which guys lose their jobs, unfortunately. And we'll compare our fantasy teams, and then we'll finally get to the meat and potatoes of these Swamp Kings and BS High documentaries.
Oh, haven't watched Swamp Kings. Still not going to.
I don't blame you. I'll give you my review tomorrow.
The BS High one I watched, and oh my God.
Yeah, really, really well done, but what a scumbag. And you could maybe say the same thing about Urban Meyer, but we'll get to it tomorrow. Thank everybody for watching and listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow. 5:30 we'll see tomorrow, because when the Giants playing? 3:40?
Mm-hmm.
All right, 5:30 should work. All right, everybody. We'll see you then. Steven. Oh, before we do, real quick. Steve Harwell, lead singer of Smash Mouth. Sad.
Yeah, big Bay Area sports guy.
He was.
Yeah.
San Jose.
Smash Mouth was like a group that I grew up on. So shout out to Smash Mouth, even though they've kind of become like as a band, they were a laughing stock, let's be honest. Like everyone kind of used their music to kind of make fun of the 90s a little bit, but they'll still always be like the number one where I was like, oh, this is cool music. Yeah, this is cool. After the Shrek soundtrack came out.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. It's unfortunate. It sucks to hear.
You love that Shrek soundtrack.
Great soundtrack.
It is. I mean, yeah, All Star is a song that got way overplayed. I still like Walking on the Sun. I think it's a really good song, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Or When the Morning Comes.
When the Morning Comes is good too.
Yep.
They had some jams. All right. R.I.P. And R.I.P. to Jimmy Buffett.
Damn.
Margaritaville.
Couple of legends.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you all tomorrow, 5:30. Until then, Steven, say what you always say.
It's just